I found out she was cheating on me when she told me. She didn't even try to hide it. Here is how I found out. I walked into the living room one Saturday afternoon, and there she was, sitting on the couch, all casual, like she was about to tell me what we were having for dinner. "I'm seeing someone else," she said. Just like that. No preamble. "I've been seeing someone else." I froze. Took a second to process it, but honestly, even in that moment, part of me already knew. I think I always knew. The late nights, the half-hearted hugs, the way she'd laugh at her phone like it was the funniest thing in the world. But then the second she saw me, it was like her whole face just dropped, like she was being caught doing something bad. I couldn't quite put it together before, but now it made sense. I don't know why I stayed quiet. I should have screamed. I should have demanded to know how long. I should have thrown something, maybe punched a wall. But I didn't. Instead, I just stood there, staring at her. She looked calm, like she was waiting for me to respond with something. But I didn't know what to say. She didn't seem even remotely sorry. "I don't love you anymore," she added. Like it was something casual. Like it wasn't the final blow. "I think we need to talk about what this means for us." Talk about what? About the fact that she'd been sleeping with someone else? About how my marriage, the one I'd been pouring my soul into for years, was dead? What was there to talk about? But there she was, looking at me like she expected me to be reasonable. And I was. Too reasonable. Too damn reasonable. I didn't know why. Maybe I just didn't want the mess. Maybe I was too scared to face what would happen next. The kids, the house, the finances, everything. I couldn't wrap my head around it all. So I stayed calm. Too calm. "Let's not jump to any conclusions," I said. It felt like a lie coming out of my mouth, but I didn't know what else to say. Her expression didn't change. She wasn't surprised. She wasn't even apologetic. She'd probably been planning this for months, maybe even longer. She leaned back into the couch, like she was in the middle of a therapy session, and she said it. "What if we just make it official?" she asked. "An open marriage. We could still live together, share the house, the kids, but we're both free to do whatever we want with whoever we want." I just stared at her. My mind was still stuck back on her admitting to cheating, but now she was suggesting that we go full throttle. Like we were some kind of progressive couple in a movie. I can't explain what happened next. Maybe it was just that I didn't want to lose the little stability I still had left. Maybe it was fear. I don't know. But I agreed. I agreed because I thought that if we didn't make any drastic changes, things wouldn't get worse. I thought we could just go on pretending. That we could somehow keep the illusion of a family together. And that was it. That was how it all started. That's how I ended up in this fucked up version of a marriage where we both wore the same ring. But neither of us cared anymore. It didn't get easier. At first, it was just the awkwardness, the way she'd bring guys over and laugh about it. Like we were some kind of big happy family. It was the guilt, too. The creeping guilt that lived with me every time she'd disappear for the night, leaving me to take care of the kids. I wasn't mad at the guys. Hell, they didn't know I was stuck in this prison with her. But I started resenting her. More and more. The arrangement worked, in a weird way. We'd still sleep in the same bed. Still eat meals together. But it wasn't real. It wasn't a marriage anymore. It was just something. I don't know how else to explain it. We existed, but we were both dead inside. I told myself I was doing it for the kids. I kept telling myself that maybe if I stayed, it would somehow be better for them. That we could just keep up the front long enough for them to grow up a little more, get old enough to understand. But I was just lying to myself. I was the one stuck in this fucked up limbo, watching her fuck around, while I just pretended that everything was fine. So yeah, I stayed. I didn't know what else to do. Divorce? What would that look like? I couldn't even imagine. The financial mess. The mess with the kids. I was stuck. And she knew it. I hated myself for it, but I stayed. The years dragged on, one after another. Each year, another lover, another night she'd come home reeking of someone else's cologne. And me? I just worked. I poured myself into my job, into the things that didn't matter. I didn't want to feel anything. And I didn't. Not for a long time. But then something changed. I met someone. And that's when it all started to come crashing down. I never planned on falling for anyone, let alone someone at work. But that's the thing about life. It doesn't care about your plans. It doesn't care about how carefully you built your little walls around yourself to protect you from the mess. Her name was Katie. She was new at the office, a bright-eyed, over-enthusiastic thing who somehow saw the best in every project and every person. At first, I didn't think much of her. She was just another face. But then we started talking more, and suddenly, those little moments, casual meetings by the printer, a shared laugh over a joke that no one else seemed to get, became something more. I didn't realize how much I'd been starved for real connection until I found it in her. And it wasn't just physical. Hell, it wasn't even about that at first. It was the way she made me feel alive again, like I was worth something beyond the husband and father role I'd been locked into. The way she didn't look at me like I was a problem to fix, like everyone else in my life did. We started spending more time together, the kind of time that's not just about work. Coffee runs that stretched into hours of talking about everything and nothing. And when I realized how easy it was to talk to her, how comfortable I felt with her, that's when I knew I was in trouble. But I didn't want to admit it. I told myself I'd be okay, that this was just some stupid office flirtation, something to make the days pass by a little quicker. I was still technically in a marriage, right? Even if it was a farce, I was still in it. And Katie? She was just someone to help me escape, to get away from the reality I'd been living in for years. But soon enough, escaping wasn't enough. I wanted more. Katie and I started meeting outside of work. Dinner. Drinks. Just the two of us, no pretending. And somewhere between the conversations and the stolen moments, I realized I was falling for her. Hard. Every second I spent with her made the world I'd been living in with Liza feel even more suffocating. And I wasn't sure how long I could keep pretending. And then came the day I told Liza. I don't even know why I told her. Maybe I thought it would be easier if I just put everything on the table. Or maybe I was just tired of hiding it. I never thought she'd care. She had her lovers. She had her life. Why would she give a shit about mine? But I should have known better. Liza always had a way of making everything about her. The conversation was nothing like I imagined. I expected her to be angry. Or indifferent. Or maybe just shrug it off like she did everything else. But no. She didn't do any of that. Instead, she lost her mind. The kind of loss that only comes from someone who thinks they own something. Someone who has been playing a game for too long and just realized the other player is actually winning. You think you can just replace me? She spat, her face twisted in something that wasn't quite anger but more like betrayal. You're still mine. This whole marriage, everything is mine. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the ridiculousness of it hit me like a slap in the face. This wasn't my marriage anymore. It hadn't been for years. She was the one who'd fucked it all up. She was the one who dragged us both into this mess of lies and half-truths. But I didn't say anything. I just stood there, watching her unravel, and I felt nothing. The guilt I expected never came. Instead, she started pulling out all the old tricks. The manipulation. The guilt trips. It was textbook. She'd always known how to play me, and now, she was playing me harder than ever. You're not going anywhere, she said, her voice low and sharp. You don't get to have a real life. Not without me. Not without the kids. Don't you dare think you're going to leave this family. I was caught. Not because I wanted her back, God no, but because of the kids. They were old enough now to see through the cracks, but I couldn't just tear it all down. I wasn't sure I could live with that. I had responsibilities. I had to keep it together for them, at least until they were old enough to understand what their mother had done to us. But things didn't get easier. They got worse. Liza wasn't content with just the affair. She couldn't stand the idea of me being happy, even if she wasn't going to give me the same. She kept pushing. And I couldn't take it anymore. I wasn't going to end it with Katie. I knew that now. But I also knew I couldn't keep living this lie. Something had to give. The day I finally decided to file for divorce, it was like I was stepping into a new life that I didn't recognize. It didn't feel like freedom, though. It didn't feel like anything but a huge, crushing weight being placed on my chest, like the world was watching, and I was finally admitting the truth about how much I'd failed. Failed to fix something. Failed to keep it together. Liza knew it was coming. I could see it in the way she looked at me. That angry, bitter stare she'd always reserved for moments when she knew she was losing control. But even then, even as she tried to play it off like she didn't care, I could feel her scrambling. She wasn't going to let this happen. Not without trying to manipulate me one last time. Are you really going to do this? She asked one night, her voice cool but laced with that edge of panic she couldn't quite hide. After everything we've been through, you're just going to throw it all away? What about the kids? The kids. She always pulled that card. She knew how to make me feel like I was doing something terrible, like I was ruining their lives just by deciding that I'd had enough. But the truth was, I wasn't the one ruining their lives. She was. I had stayed, despite it all. I had put up with her affairs, her manipulations, the constant emotional warfare. I had stayed to keep up some semblance of normalcy for them. But I was done. I'm doing this because of the kids, I told her, even though I knew it wasn't the full truth. It was the easiest excuse. But it wasn't the reason I was filing. The reason I was filing was because I couldn't live another day in this empty house, with two people who were supposed to be a family, pretending we were something we weren't. She didn't want to hear it. She started with the guilt trip. She'd always been so good at those. The way she could turn the tables, and make me feel like I was the one being unreasonable, like I was the one who didn't appreciate everything she had done. You're just going to throw me away, she said. We could fix this. I was just worried about the kids, and now you're just going to rip them apart. The manipulation hit a nerve, sure. But I was past it. I wasn't her fucking pawn anymore. I couldn't be. I had already made my decision. The years of resentment, the years of living in a house with no real marriage, it all culminated in this one moment. She could try all the tricks she wanted, but it wasn't going to work. Not this time. We went through the motions of the divorce, the court dates, the lawyers, the paperwork. She fought it tooth and nail, of course, trying to make me feel guilty, trying to guilt-trip the kids into siding with her. But I knew what I had to do. I had to push through, no matter how messy it got. The worst part was watching the kids have to navigate this. They were old enough now to understand what was happening, and it killed me to see them caught in the middle. But they knew. They knew who was the problem. They could see the cracks in their mother's act. They weren't stupid. In the end, they chose to live with me. I didn't know how to feel about that. Part of me was relieved, grateful, even, but part of me felt like I was betraying them by making them deal with this, by forcing them to face the truth about their mother. But they were smart. They knew who had been there for them. They knew who had tried to keep it together, even when everything was falling apart. Liza tried to play the victim all through the divorce. She tried to make me out to be the bad guy, the one who couldn't handle the marriage. But I wasn't going to let her. I wasn't going to let her rewrite the narrative. She could do whatever she wanted, but I was done being her punching bag. And then came the final moment. The confrontation. It wasn't anything dramatic. I didn't yell, didn't throw anything. But when I told her that I was done, that there was no coming back from this, she broke. I watched her. Her face twisted in a way that made me feel like I was the one who had killed something. Like I was the villain in the story. But I wasn't. I wasn't the villain. I was just the one who finally walked away. The hardest part wasn't even her. It was the guilt, the feeling like I had somehow failed my family, failed my kids, by not being able to make it work. But I had to let that go. I couldn't keep living in a prison just to make everyone else happy. And then, there was Katie. She stood by me through it all. Through the guilt, through the mess. She wasn't perfect. She had her flaws, too. But for the first time in years, I felt like I wasn't living in someone else's shadow. Like I was finally living my life, not hiding behind some fake version of it. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if Katie and I will work out. Hell, I don't know what's going to happen with my kids as they grow up and start to piece everything together. But I do know this. I'm not going to be anyone's doormat anymore. I'm not going to spend another year pretending. Not when I know I deserve better.